Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and today we're going to be doing some planting out back in our way back garden, and I'm so excited. This is a wonderful shade garden that I've been developing over the past few years, just kind of slowly but surely taking it back from the wild. And I got some wonderful plants at Countryside Greenhouse over in Zeeland, Michigan. I happened to be at my son's soccer game and we stopped by because it was just about 15 minutes away. And it was amazing. They had so many different plants as a selection. So I picked up a whole bunch of shade perennials and I'm excited to get them in today. In addition to that, we're going to lay down some pea gravel to kind of finish out this path a little bit. So we're going to get that out of the way and then we'll get planting. We're going to plant some epimedium, we're going to plant some lungwort, and we are going to plant some brunnera. So I can't wait to show you the different varieties that I got because they're very different from the ones that I already have. Let's get going. Right, I've got my trusty hori-hori knife here. It's gonna make quick work of slicing these bags open, and these are just gravel. It's pea gravel from Home Depot, and all I'm doing is laying a really small path here. And I'm not putting any barriers into this. I may have to come through and do that later. But I'm just trying to kind of get some of these bags out of the way for my planting and open up this area for me to be able to work in. I love this natural element for use as a path back here. It's going to give me a little bit flatter of a stepping spot, and over time I can continue to kind of improve upon it. Okay, this is as much as I'm going to lay in terms of the bags that I have. I have some other bags here, but I just wanted to make sure that they were not in the way of my planting this evening. So now that I have those out of the way, let's start digging. So I've planted some chives around this area that you can see, and it's just, it's too shady for them. And so I'm going to be using some epimediums that I think are going to look really, really nice in here. So we're just going to take some of these chives out and replace those. Now you notice I am being fairly careful of what I'm doing because this is a fairly steep hill. And so I don't want to like go down the hill or anything. Luckily, because of all of this rain, we have some really nice wet soil. It's been super hot today though, so it's definitely going to be a bit of a workout getting these plants into the ground. Okay, so the first plant I'm going to plant today is an epimedium that is called Domino, and this one has beautiful white flowers that look like little fairies that go up above it. It blooms in spring. This one needs 1 to 3 hours of filtered sun, and so it's perfect for back here. It is a perennial and it goes in the shade. It is hardy from zones 5 to 8. And I will say I've grown some epimediums back here already. The one thing they're not really a fan of is clay soil, which I do have back here. But I have noticed that the other ones seem to be adapting. So that's really good to see. And definitely the soil has been improving over the last couple of years. So hopefully they will like it here. And this one's being planted right next to another epimedium that is called Sandy Claw. I forgot to tell you guys the size of these. So these actually get to be, let's see here, 18 to 24 inches tall by 24 to 36 inches wide. So I definitely want to try to give them enough space. I don't think they're going to be very fast growing in these conditions because of the fact that the soil is clay. And yeah, I've just been watching the other varieties that I've planted back here, and they have been quite slow growing. So we'll watch them over time. If I need to, you know, spread them out further, I can do that as well. These are semi-evergreen, so if you are in warmer climates, they probably will remain evergreen for you. Look at this giant rock I just dug up. Okay, maybe it's not giant, but it's a good size. These do like a nice soil amendment that helps keep them moist during, you know, periods of time where it might be drier. But they are a really, really carefree plant overall. Now, one thing I remind people whenever I'm planting in shade or on a hill is that, you know, you want to make sure that the plant is level with the top side of the hill and not necessarily with the bottom side of the hill. So that's what I'm doing right now. We're going to plant 2 more epimediums, and these are called Pretty in Pink. And so they have beautiful pink flowers, and their foliage turns kind of a rusty orange and green. But this one, again, it blooms in the spring, and they call them red and green leaves, but to me it looks a little bit more of an orangey and green color. And so this one is going to get 18 inches high by about 12 inches wide, so not quite as wide, but this one is hardy from zones 4 to 8. And this one is going to be absolutely beautiful also. I can't wait to see these. Hopefully they'll bloom in the spring. They're really more of a late winter, early spring bloomer, kind of when hellebores bloom. So it's one of those wonderful plants that, you know, a lot of other things just aren't blooming at the time that these bloom, which makes them a great addition to just about any shade garden. I hear a rock down in there. Well, this one's not very big. Because of the types of roots that these have, you don't really have to worry as much about kind of breaking them up. But this one is fairly kind of root bound or starting to get that way, so I'm just kind of massaging the roots a little bit. And then as I plant things, I'm also kind of pulling the weeds away from the edges of the planting spot. That just helps to ensure that these plants have plenty of room to breathe and nothing's trying to steal their nutrients or their space away from them. Ooh, you guys, I'm getting sweaty. And the mosquitoes are starting to come out. That's the thing about rain, it certainly brings those on. So I'm just going to plant the other one right nearby this one. That helps to provide a little bit more impact, especially since the blooms on these are more subtle than some other types of flower blooms that you might see. But they really are absolutely beautiful. They remind me of fairies. Woodland fairy plants. So if you like that look, these will be perfect for you. Ooh, this one has even stronger roots. So probably tomorrow what I'll do is dig some compost out of my compost bin and put that around these as well, just to help give them some nutrition and to help continue to ensure that this soil is nice and healthy to feed the roots of this plant. It will help also to continue to break up the clay that is in the soil as well. All right, we have 2 more plants to plant. We have a brunnera and we have a fern as well. All right, the next plant that we have is this beautiful brunnera that is pretty much all silver. So this brunnera is a premium choice and it is called Looking Glass. So I would agree with that. It's a very just pure silver, and this can go all the way to part sun. So this will do shade all the way up to part sun. It does have the beautiful blooms just like all the other brunneras in early spring, and it does well in average water. It gets 12 to 24 inches tall and wide, and it's good in zones 3 to 8. So a really good all-around woodland shade perennial. I only got one of these. I'm hoping that perhaps over time I'll be able to continue to divide it. Time will tell how it does in my garden. Hopefully I'll be able to even get it into my garden, because I'm kind of trying to anyways, plant around where a tree stump is. So there's definitely plenty of roots in here. As well as small stones. I'm going to try to dig this hole a little bit wider than it needs to be, because that should help with the fact that this is such heavy clay soil. And, you know, kind of loosen up that soil for the roots to spread out in. All right, so I dug a hole that's probably twice as big as the width of the root ball on this, but I think it's just going to be beneficial to the plant. And again, I'm planting it at the height of the top of the hill and not the bottom of the hill. That way it doesn't get buried. I think that looks great. One more to plant and then we'll show you how they all have turned out. All right, the last plant that we're going to plant is this beautiful fern. This is the Jurassic Gold Hardy Fern that I showed you. I got this as part of one of my clearance plant hauls. So I wanted to put this back here because I thought it might help provide a little bit of color other than silver back here. We can get some of the different golds and kind of rust colors and things like that. And that's the thing about shade gardens. You know, you get a lot of green because it is the shade, so you can't get as many flowers, but you can get so many different shades of green and yellows and blues and reds. It's just more subtle. And I think there's something nice about that. There's something you can appreciate about the subtlety of the plants. It's kind of one of my favorite things about shade gardening. It also creates a very restful space. So some of you shared with me your experiences with this fern and shared that it did really well for you and was pretty good in a dry area, which this is a lot of the time. However, right now it's nice and moist, so we're taking advantage of that. I don't know if you can hear all of the roots that I'm just kind of chopping through right now, but there are quite a few of them. I'm hoping that this is deep enough. I think that it is. Yes. Excellent. And even in this space, I'm still going to come back through and add a little compost around this fern as well, because it can benefit from it too. Okay, well, we have finished planting and I am very pleased with how things have turned out. I feel like we are really starting to get things filled in, and we've definitely done a lot more planting this year because I was able to get quite a few brunnera on clearance, as well as some wonderful ferns, and now adding in the epimedium. And the lamium is continuing to spread, which is fantastic. I mean, that's what lamium does best. The large root geranium is also spreading around, which is what I wanted to do as well. But that stuff is really easy to pull out, so if it's overtaking something, I will definitely take that out as well. But you can see we actually have like real plants down here, and not just, gosh, I mean, we had just weeds and not really much of anything before, and it's starting to really come along and feel a bit more magical every month. And I love the sound of the gravel underneath of my feet. And oops, you guys, I totally forgot to plant one of my plants. I'm gonna have to get after this at the end of the video, but let me just show it to you so you know what it is. This one is called Raspberry Frost. It is a lungwort. It looks kind of variegated and has white edging on it. I can't believe that I forgot to put this one here, but it can take up to full sun, which is quite unique for pulmonaria, and it blooms in spring and gets 10 inches tall and 18 inches wide, and is good in zones 3 to 8. So I have a little spirea that is back here that isn't doing anything, so I'm going to be digging that out and replacing it with that beautiful Raspberry Frost. So I think as we continue to finish out this path, that also is going to make a difference back here and really make it start to feel more and more finished. But it will be years and years before that actually happens. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed working out in the way back garden with me and getting some new plants going. Maybe there's some plants that I planted today that you hadn't heard of yet, and so it's an excellent time to take a chance and look around and see if there's new plants that are out there that you haven't heard of yet that could be great in your garden. Well, thanks again for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.